Welcome to Ideas to Implementation, the podcast for women who have a business idea but feel stuck in a job. Featuring real women with real stories of how they went from employee to boss. My guest today is entrepreneur and business owner, Sara Sabin. Nice to meet you, Sara. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Simone?
Very well, thank you very much. Staying sane during this lockdown. It's all good.
Yes, me too. I'm locked away in a mountain.
That's you. Yeah, we're all doing what we can to stay sane. Tell us about yourself. What do you do? What's your business?
So my business at the moment is a transformational coaching business. It's been quite a journey to get here, I will have to say. But essentially what I do is I work with high achievers that feel stuck and unfulfilled. And I help them to find clarity on their purpose, impact, and direction. And then my other area of passion is really leadership and business. So how we can all be more unique as a leader, more authentic, and how we can bring that into business as well in order to exponentially grow professionally and personally as well.
Oh, sounds amazing. So how did you get there? So what were you doing before your career or thing, and how did you move into coaching?
So apologies, this is quite a windy journey, so I will put it as succinctly as I can. So I actually started my corporate career as a tax accountant. So I trained with a top 10 firm. I then moved to work in what's called a multi-family office, where you work with ultra high net worth individuals, and I worked as a relationship manager there. And when I found that job, I absolutely loved it for the first 2 years. And then at that kind of midway point, something changed. So I literally found no joy or satisfaction in anything that I was doing. And that led me to start questioning the work I was doing and the way I was living my life, basically. So around that time, a very good friend of mine said, "Would you like to co-found a startup?" And I thought, well, why not? I'll do it on the side of my work at the moment. Maybe that will give me some clue as to my direction. So basically, my first startup started as a side hustle. It was called Medic Footprints, and it was a service to help doctors find alternative careers. So we did networking events and conferences and an online service and things like that. So essentially I started that, and then I decided to leave my corporate job. And because of the strength of the kind of internal crisis I was going through, I knew that just changing to another corporate career wasn't going to be enough at that point in time. So I was like, right, I'm just going to leap into entrepreneurship. I'd saved up money, a financial cushion, so I felt a bit less insecure about it. And I plunged into that first startup. To cut a long story short, my relationship with my co-founder broke down, and I ended up leaving a year later. And that business is still going on. And I'm happy to report we're friends again now. So, and then I started my second startup, which was a tech startup, an online platform for accountants to network with employers. Ran that for 2.5 years, over which time I nearly burnt out. I was chronically stressed, chronically anxious, insomnia. And basically what happened at the 2.5 year point was that we were offered sort of quite chunky investment And instead of being happy, I was really, I was the opposite. So literally my heart sank. And that was because the thought of going on with it for another 3 to 5 years, just I couldn't cope with it mentally. So contrary to what everyone else thought, I did close down the business. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give myself a break from starting any new projects. I'm going to do a lot of personal development work and see where I get to in 2 months' time. And during that period, that's when I came across transformational coaching. And I followed quite a few of the master teachers of it. And it called to me. And I knew at that point that was a business that my heart was really in it.
Wow, what a journey. What I normally ask people is, how did you know you had the right idea? And yeah, I sit and listen to your journey, and obviously you've started a few businesses, and it got to that point of where your heart was in it. How important is that, do you think, in discovering, well, I guess your passion and your purpose and linking that and then to business? How important is all of that?
For me, it's absolutely crucial, and for the type of clients that I choose to work with as well. The reason behind that is that, as I see it, there's 2 ways we can do things. So one, we can try and force everything through. So as I did with my second startup, it was a sheer battle of focus and willpower and discipline to get anything done. And that's kind of what I'd call upstream effort. And that was because my heart wasn't in it. So I had to dig up that motivation constantly to keep moving. When your heart is in something, it just feels differently. So things tend to flow a lot more easily. And also because you're intrinsically kind of agreeing to it, and it feels right and it feels like your passion, you are obviously still putting in effort, but the effort feels nicer and more joyful, and a lot of the time it actually produces better results. So you're kind of, if you think of it in terms of a boat, you're flowing downstream with the current and you're paddling along rather than a salmon swimming upstream, if you like.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's great advice about your heart being in it. But were there any challenges? So you obviously found transformational coaching, you went through it yourself and then started it as a business. What sort of challenges, what's been the greatest challenge you faced starting that business? And what is your business called, Transformational Coaching?
It's actually literally just called my name. So Sara Sabin, Transformational Coaching. I've come up against a lot of challenges along the way. I think the root of the challenges actually tends to come from the same place. So I'll explain what I mean by that. So as I mentioned, my old kind of modus operandi was just to push through everything and do and force it through. And my mind told me that was completely necessary. So the biggest obstacle that I faced in anything I do is actually me. So my mind getting involved and telling me all the things I should do, and decisions I should make, and analysis paralysis. And I mean, I think that's probably quite a vague way of putting it, but it sort of summarizes where my obstacles have come from. If we're talking about more kind of tangible obstacles, it would be things like, well, when running a startup, you have to do things on a budget. There will be ebbs and flows. So there'll be sometimes when things seem to be going amazingly, and sometimes when things seem to be doing the opposite. And it's shepherding yourself through the times when it's not going so well, reconnecting with a strong vision or purpose, which is why the heart is so important there. And actually learning to take a step back sometimes from those obstacles to look at the bigger picture rather than sort of getting trapped in the detail of it. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
No, I think and great, tangible obstacles, because I think that's important for people to know, especially looking to go into business. But you mentioned there about the biggest obstacle being yourself, and the amount of people that when I answer that question, that's the answer, myself. And how do you deal with that? Because if it's a more tangible, I guess you can do that. Okay, you have to do things on a budget. Okay, the answer to that is sort of find things that are in your price range, or something like that. But when you're the obstacle, how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? How do you push through those things that you had mentioned before?
So what I do with myself and what I do with my clients, so I won't ever tell a client to do something that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. So what I talk about a lot is getting out of your mind. So your mind is your best friend and your worst enemy. A lot of people obviously use their minds to make money, and that will be encouraged, right? That method of operating. So you'll go through school and you'll do exams in university, and you'll start work, and the emphasis will always be on analysis. And then undoubtedly there are a lot of people that have created a lot of success for themselves with their mind. But for those that keep coming up against blocks, either internal or external blocks, so they've got this ceiling either inside or outside that's going on with themselves. For those people, it's time to start looking at how they make decisions and how they make choices. So that's when it's time to get back in touch with your gut and intuition. And I don't mean this in a woo-woo sense either. The gut is the second brain. It has many of the same neurotransmitters you find in the brain, so serotonin and GABA. It has more neurons in the spinal cord. There's two neural pathways running from the gut to the brain and only one going from the brain to the gut. Sorry, this is kind of science geek stuff, but I love talking about it. And essentially, it's there for you to start filtering out options, for you to get that gut feeling on a decision, on a path. And then at that point, if the gut is saying, hell yeah, then you send it up to the brain for processing. What you don't do is think, oh God, I'm going to ignore my gut. I work with clients that say they've ignored their gut their whole life. And I ask them, well, how is that working out for you? And they're like, well, not very well, actually. So it's definitely a work in progress for people that have used their mind their whole life to get out of that method of being. But there are tools and techniques you can use to start getting back in touch with that.
Yeah, and I think that's really key. That's really important because, for instance, if you have a burning desire to start a business or you want to do something, you're stuck in a place, you're stuck in a job that you hate, or you're stuck in a certain situation, and your gut's telling you to do something, but then your mind's saying, well, no, because of this and this, that, and the other, and it's that war, isn't it? That battle between that and your gut. So yeah, really key piece of advice there. How do you sort of balance life and business? Because running a business, it can, if you're not careful, be really all-consuming. And you, before I think you mentioned around nearing burnout and stuff. How do you now? What have you learned from your past experience, and how do you deal with that now to avoid burning out?
So it's still a work in progress for me. And I imagine it will always be like that, just like kind of getting the mind under control is also like that. But what I've started to do now in this business is outsourcing things that I hate doing. Even if it costs me money, it allows me to focus my time and energy on the things that excite and energize me. And the more I do those things, the more I'm actually more motivated and thrilled by working on the business, because I'm not worrying about all the things I hate to do. I used to very much have a mentality that if you want something done, you've got to do it yourself. And as you can imagine, that led to no balance at all. So, I mean, when I had my startups, I did have people working for me, but I would give them things to do with the mindset of already, oh my God, this will be late. They won't be able to do it on time. And this is something I've had to work through as a leader as well, because you can't effectively lead people if you don't have that level of trust there. So developing that trust in delegating to other people is key to creating that balance as well. And also what I find is just a very strong intention sometimes. So I swore after my last startup that I would never reach the brink of burnout again. So when I start to feel myself becoming exhausted, that at that point I take a step back rather than trying to push through it.
I mean, that's important. If your health suffers, you're not going to be any good to anyone, not to yourself or to your business or anyone else. So your health is the most important thing, isn't it?
Yes, and also I was not very pleasant to be around. You can ask my partner at the time or any of my friends that actually probably didn't see me for a period of a year or two because I was too busy.
Gosh, it's so important to monitor our bodies, listen to our bodies, listen to what we're doing, and take time out for ourselves. And it can be difficult, especially you're starting a business, you're running a business. And I can identify so much with you there, where you said about not trusting people initially to delegate. And I think that is when you're a natural leader, or that can kind of be a problem, because I can resonate completely that sort of, it's going to be better if I just do it myself. At least I know it's done. At least I know it's done to my standards. And it's well, you've got to trust, because there's a danger of you burning out because you're trying to do everything. And also, it doesn't really lead to a good relationship with those working with you either, because no one likes.
No. And I can certainly say during my corporate career, I have been micromanaged before, and I did not like it.
Not great, is it? So what's been your greatest achievement let's talk about your current business. I know you've been in business for a while now, but in your current business, what's been your greatest achievement so far?
I mean, I think there's a few things, I guess. So, excuse me. Starting this business has also been a personal development journey for me, because I am evolving so that I can take my clients on that deeper journey as well. So I once heard the quote, you can't take people deeper than you've been yourself. So in that way, it's really served me as well. But also, the way I approached the business was counterintuitive to anything I'd done before. So I started very experimentally. I experimented with different types of clients. I didn't focus on marketing straight away, which was also counterintuitive for me. I literally just reached out to my network, connected with them, had a conversation, and said, how are you doing? What's going on for you? And if it seemed natural, I would say, I'm doing free deep dive sessions. Would you be interested? And out of those free deep dive sessions, some wanted to continue as paid clients on my program. So I tried that out. I found it worked really, really well. So I actually managed to make about £10,000 in the first few months of the coaching business, which was much, much, much more than I had ever expected, results-wise. And I attribute that to starting experimentally. Achievements to date, I suppose pivoting the business during COVID has been one of them. So learning to do things that I previously might have done face-to-face online. So things like group coaching, workshops, etc. I'm finding that actually those can be just as effective online.
That's brilliant. And that you're having great success through that at the moment, you know, people wanting to do online and things like that. That's good. Yeah.
Yes. And also it's encouraging me to, this is another big point with businesses, to be creative. So to connecting with communities of people and their communities, which is an awesome way to just extend your outreach, keep talking to people of interest, and just being more visible, more out there.
No, definitely. So what 3 pieces of advice would you give? I mean, you've given great advice over, but 3 succinct pieces of advice that you give to a woman listening now who wants to start a business, has an idea, but has maybe lacked the confidence, hasn't gone out and done it yet. What would you?
So number 1, reimagine the word failure. Just because for a lot of people that have been on a corporate career path, I find you'll often ask them, have you failed? And they'll be like, no, or they'll look a bit sheepish, because failure has these negative connotations. But just realize that, and I think this should be talked about more, for every successful entrepreneur, there were failures that happened along the way. So don't be afraid of the word, and don't be afraid to take risks. How big the risk is up to you. So you can always measure a risk and take something that you're okay with doing. So I think that would be number 1. Number 2, be prepared to experiment and play with it. So, I think adding that element of fun into the business also keeps you motivated, keeps you happy, keeps you sane. And that's really important for building something sustainable over the long term and getting you through those ups and downs. And also, if you think of it as play, if you fall over because you tried one particular thing and it didn't work, you'll be like, okay, well, just try something different next time. It's fine. And then the third thing, which I generally say to people wanting to go from corporate to business, have a financial cushion or a financial runway so that you are not adding that extra layer of stress and pressure to yourself when you first start the business, because I think actually psychologically that can scare away people as well. I once heard a quote, needy is creepy. So yeah, basically do whatever you need to do so that you don't come across as needy.
I think that's great advice. Definitely. So lastly, Sarah, how do people get in contact with you? Give your contact details?
Yes, you can email me. My email address is very easy to remember because it's my first name at firstnamesecondname.com. So Sarah at sarasabin.com. You can connect with me via LinkedIn. Twitter, Facebook, any way you want, basically. I also have a contact form on my website.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people will get in touch with you because it's been a great guest, great advice, and love your journey and what you've learned from it and how much you can give to others. It's been amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you, Simone. It's been a pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Ideas to Implementation. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time.